W5FC.
T-minus 5 minutes and counting. This is KF5JHA.
This is KI5, JTM, going to radio check before the net begins. Can someone confirm my signal?
Well, I'm not sure the call sign. It was about 50% static and frying bacon, so you might want to either increase your power or increase your position.
This is KI5, JTM, attempting from a different position. Do I sound any better? Over.
Well, I think I got your call sign a little bit that time. KI5, maybe? Again, lots of static. minus 60 seconds to Skynet. This is KF5JHA.
This is KI5JC. That's another radio check. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will control your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Unfortunately, I'm not hearing any improvement in your signal. Still lots of static.
Okay, trying the last time before I go back to my other agent. KI5. JCM taking a radio check trying to join into Skynet. Anyone hear me?
Again, lots of static. Give me your last bit of your call sign once again, but do it twice. Let's see if we can pull it out that way. This is KF5JHA.
This is KI5JCM, or KI5JCM, broadcasting at a Helix section.
Is there anyone else that's pulling out his suffix? The prefix I've got, KI5, but I'm not sure of the suffix.
Ian, Juliet, Papa, November. He was on earlier and he was strong, but he's done something and he's essentially unintelligible now. Anti-BB.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, does anybody need to use the repeater before we begin this session of Skynet? This is KF5JHA. My name is Chaz. I'll be your net control for this session of the DC, the Radio Club, Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net call every Saturday night since 2012 at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime sky, daytime sky, astronomy, space, and all sorts of things related to that. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter this net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? Come now. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That's me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions, like this, KF5JHA. This weekly net, which is called Skynet, operates on a frequency of 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible, and I'm looking over there right now, using the W5FC-R station ID or the Echolink node of 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, live audio, video links are available online. Go to w5fc.org right now for a complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio to participate. This net is 90 minutes long. It'll end approximately at 10:30, and it stretches in several parts. We'll try most of them. The first one is general announcements, then Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, and then National Space Society events, discussion topics of the evening, space exploration, that could be interesting tonight, and space history. Astronomical constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and at the end, astronomical questions and answers. Oh yeah, we'll say goodbye to each other. All amateurs that are licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Okay, let's start with check-ins that are low power and short time check-ins. Here's what I need to do though. I need you to come very slowly. I only do this once every 3 months. So come now with your call sign phonetically, and we're going to do it in groups of 3. Now, KI5JPN, I've got you checked in already, so you don't need to check in. I've got you already. But right now, I need low power, short time, in groups of 3. After 3, stop, and I'll acknowledge you. So, come now, low power and short time.
Alpha Delta 5 Sierra Echo.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Sierra, Gus for Northeast Dallas, far Northeast Dallas, and 4 watts, low power.
This is November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen, short time, N5WI.
Thank you. I think we've had a double already. First, acknowledge AB5SE, I believe. Could you come now again with your name and your location?
Roger, Roger. Alpha Delta 5 Sierra Echo. Chuck Richardson.
Thank you, Chuck. And I've got Gus, W5GUS. Wonder why he has a vanity call sign. And N5WOI, William and Allen. Okay, the next 3. If you are low power or short time, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, I'm not sure about that. That was about 90% static. Why don't you see if you can improve your position or increase your power? See if you can try that once again. Go ahead.
Kilo 5 Juliet Delta Whiskey low power. John and Coppell.
John, you're in your southern home tonight. Thank you so much. You sounded much better that time. Okay, we'll try one more time. If there's any low power or short time check-ins, come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Alpha Charlie 9, Kilo Victor. Name's Romy. QTH is Grapevine. I'm short time. Thanks for running that. AC9KB.
AC9, KV, Robbie, and Grapevine, thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go to Echolink right now. Hold off, everyone. That's on radio. If you are on Echolink, I'm going to give you extra time. Come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Come now.
Hello, call Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jane Weather.
Trying to come in there. I'm going to check in Shane, WZ, at W0, sorry, W0MBC, and I bet Bethany is there with him too, so I'm going to check both of them in right now. Okay, I'll do one more time for Echolink, then I'll come with a radio frequency in just a minute. So come now if you're on Echolink, if you'd like to check in to this session of Skynet. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry, Jay. I'm not sure if I acknowledge you. KG5BZW. I've got you checked in. Okay, if you are on radio frequency, that would be 146.88 megahertz, and you'd like to join Skynet, please come now slowly with your call sign, your name, and your location. We'll do this in groups of 3.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving.
Kilo India 5, Charlie Delta Uniform, David in Dallas.
Tony and Bill, I've got you. The third one, would you please repeat your call sign, your name, and your location, please? Thank you.
Kilo India 5, Charlie Delta Uniform, David in Dallas.
David, thank you so much. KI5CDU. Okay, the next 3, please come with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Kilo 5, Alpha November 5, Allen in Dallas. Hotel, John, Plano.
Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
All right, Kelly, I got you, but the first 2 were doubles. Almost a perfect double. Okay, John, I got your name out of that first set. Can you come back with your call sign? I've got you as in Plano, but what is your call sign, please?
Kilo, Golf, 5, Papa, Hotel, KG5, PH.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Now, the other person that doubled, what is your call sign, your name, and your location, please?
Kilo 5, Alpha, November, Papa, Allen in Dallas.
Thank you, Alan. I had your suffix, but not your prefix, so thank you so much. K5ANP. Okay, the next three, please come with your call sign and your name and your location.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill of Farmers Branch.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Far North Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, uniform, Kilo uniform. David, Mesquite.
Distorted. Maybe you've got your gain kind of high on your microphone. Now, with your call sign and your name, you sound familiar. I apologize. Go ahead, please.
Chaz, you were doubled up there.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I have a check-in that has an OF in the call sign. Didn't get your name or your location or the first part of your call sign. You're kind of distorted. I was wondering if you've got your mic gain up too high. But please come now again with your call sign and your name, and I'll count for the double minutes.
Okay, I guess that was me. It's Clay, Charlie Lima, Alpha Yankee, November Oscar Foxtrot in Mesquite.
How could I forget you, Clay? You're a neighbor of mine. I'm in Mesquite. Okay, whoever I doubled with, please come now again. If you didn't hear your call sign acknowledged, please come now again with your call sign, your name, and your location. Thank you.
Kilo Golf 5, uniform, Kilo uniform. David, Mesquite.
Yes, all of us neighbors need to stick together. Thank you, David. Okay, the next three, come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Try not to double each other. Yeah, how do we solve that one? Okay, come now.
November 5, Bravo, Romeo, Delta, Brian in Plano.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, so.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima, Delta, Randy Rowlett, K5GLD.
Okay, Net Control recognizes Brian, Tom, and Randy from Plano, Louisville, and Rowlett in that order. Okay, the next three, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location, if you would, please.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa. This is Mike in Richardson.
Okay, the net recognizes Brenda and Mike. That third one was a lot of noise, about, I don't know, what, 80, 90% noise. Could you see if you can try to improve your position and or increase your power? Well, I didn't get any call signs for the first time, so didn't hear anything the second time. We'll try that again. We'll have other multiple sign-ins. Okay, come now if you want to join Skynet with your call sign, your name, and your location. The next three people, please.
Kilo Golf 5, Oscar Mike Romeo, Marcia in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, the net recognizes Patrick, both from Dallas. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll have more check-ins later on. Right now, let's go on to Skynet. Let's see, I've got general check-ins, I've done Echolink, we've done short time, low power. Let's see now. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed ham. Come now with your call sign and your name. Oh, just your call sign if you have any of those announcements.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Well, I guess you're the only one, Tony. NT5, TM, come now with your announcements. Thank you.
Good evening, Chaz. I'd like to remind everyone that, of course, June is Field Day month. It's coming up before we know it. We've added some more resources to W5FC.org. If you look at the latest TechNet news post or at the calendar of events, we're going to have 2 virtual meetings on June 4th and 18th to talk about tips and tricks and best practices for Field Day, both at 7 p.m., both online, and details are on W5FC.org. Check the calendar of events. Lots of fun stuff. We also have a virtual meeting coming up on AMSAT, focusing on the future of AMSAT in microwaves on Tuesday, June 2nd. And again, that's a virtual meeting. Details, the link you click on to participate, are on the calendar of events under the Dark Activities menu choice on W5FC.org. And of course, that meeting is at 7 p.m. as well. We sure like things that happen at 7. It's a good time. Anyway, please have a look at the club meeting and at our Field Day update meetings. You'll be glad you did. You'll have a good time and learn some cool stuff. Have a look at W5FC.org. This is NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Hey, lots of virtual meetings anymore. At least we can go radio if we want to with our meetings. That's an awesome thing. But we've been doing that for a long time, for over 100 years. Isn't it interesting? Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's see. What else do I have? I have to go down on my script here, scroll down. Of course, Tony was talking about AMSAT, the Amateur Radio Satellite Group. It has 2 nets available to the Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You'll need Echolink installed, and you need to be registered for Echolink. You can find that net under Groups and AMSAT, A-M-S-A-T. Also, a live audio link is available on their website. That would be amsatnet.com. This originates out of Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT net in Dallas-Fort Worth is every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater 147.14, PL tone 110.9, positive offset. Let's see now. We have all sorts of nets on this radio frequency. On Mondays, on the first Monday of each month, we have the Ham Fixin' net. Also on the third Monday of each month, we have Ham Fixins. Yeah, there we go. The second Monday of each month is the Ecom 101 net, and the fourth week, the fourth Monday, is GeekNet on Monday nights. I believe all those are at 7 o'clock. Of course, on Saturdays, TechNet is from 7 to 8. And, of course, Skynet is happening right now from 9 to 10:30. And there's something else that happens, too, but we'll get to that in just a minute. The ARRL net, the National Traffic System Training Net, is every night on this repeater at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of the nets, but there's one more net that we need to talk about, and that's tonight's Afterglow net. That usually happens at about 10:30, a little later if we get too talkative here on Skynet. But there is a person on this net, Tom. He might be able to help us out with a description of what's going on this movie Afterglow thing that's happening. Tom, can you come now and let us know what's going on with that net tonight?
Well, thank you, Chaz. I always look forward to this, and my synopses are extremely accurate, so listen up, everybody. Tonight's Afterglow info is follows. The hot air balloon rose quickly into the air. Cyrus Harding, Herbert Brown, and a guy named Ned listened to Gideon Spilett, the man who masterminded the escape. Spilett spoke. Welcome aboard the Confederate Balloon Dumb Plot Device 1. We know in your prison break you had a choice of escape conveyances, and we're happy you chose ours. Please remember to wear seatbelts at all times. Place your stolen weapon either in the overhead bin or under the seat in front of you. And remember, the person next to you, in the unlikely event of a water landing, can be used as a flotation device. The balloon began losing altitude. Below, a giant crab was waving. The erstwhile crew waved back. The crab continued waving. The crew waved back. Wake up, guys. The crab isn't waving. Join us for the next Afterglow movie, Mysterious Island from 1961. It's not as bad as you think. At 10:30 p.m. Or maybe it is. Back to net control. Place your tray tables in their upright position. This is KEF5 ICX. Back to net.
Oh, thank you, Tom. I understand there was some hot air involved with the description of that movie that has some sort of name like Mysterious Island. Okay, we'll get to other things right now. All right, next up, we're going to talk about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Actually, we have meetings on the fourth Friday of each month. Well, there's an exception in November and December. We'll get to that when we get closer to those months. But on June, let's see now, I think that's the 26th. I don't have everything up on my screen that I need to have. Let me see, is that right? Yes, it is, June 26th. We have a very special guest that we are going to have virtually on the meeting for the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. That will happen at 7:30 p.m. And our speaker is Don Pettit. He has been on this net before. A little bit more than 5 years ago, we have somebody, Kelly, K5KTX, she interviewed him, but he wasn't here locally. We were at a place out in West Texas. It was cloudy. It was supposed to be a Messier marathon, but we were bored, so we actually pulled him to the side and said, "Hey, could you actually be interviewed on the net?" And he said, "Sure." And of course, he's a ham radio operator, so that's kind of cool. K5MDT is his call sign, and yes, there is an amateur radio on board the ISS, and he's used that before and transmitted to people down here on this lowly planet called Earth. So anyway, he's our featured speaker for the next meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. That's on June the 26th. TexasAstro.org is where you can find some more details. Now, we have had in the past, up until February, observing sessions on Saturday nights held in different locations throughout the Metroplex. It doesn't matter where right now it's happening because of the COVID shelter in place and social distancing, and it's kind of hard to social distance away from a person that's looking through your telescope. So hopefully that'll open up sometime soon. I hope so. All right, let's see now. Does anybody need information or any fills on that information? Come now with your call sign. You're making it easy on me tonight. The National Space Society, events and activities. We have somebody by the name of Bill, and for some reason he has B's in his call sign, N5BB. He probably has all sorts of information about the National Space Society. Oh, there was some event that happened earlier today, and Kelly is going to tell us about that, but I'm sure National Space Society, all those members are probably watching it. But Bill, come now, tell us all about your information about the National Space Society of North Texas.
Thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB. Yes, the B's are in my call sign. They're not in my bonnet. So that means they're not in the hood of my car either. Ha-ha. Anyway, I am the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. We were supposed to have the International Space Development Conference in Frisco here this right now. It was going to be the last few days of May. But, of course, it was canceled because of COVID-19. And so the school events and the museum events we normally do are also not possible since they've been closed. So we've had to just have virtual meetings and things of that nature. However, the National Space Society, the national group, not just the local, the national group, for its members, has been having some really neat conference calls on Thursday evenings. This past week, there were 3 panelists on the Zoom call, and they discussed what do we do once we get to the moon. This involves, building buildings there, getting oxygen, growing crops, all kinds of practical things. What do you do when you get to the moon? Where do you get water? How do you get power? Where do you go? And most people believe the best place to go is the south pole of the moon. It has known water, and there's some high peaks. And when you get up at top of the peak, you essentially have sunlight the complete moon day, which is very long. But anyway, so that's what's going on there. As far as what happened here this last few days, SpaceX made some big attempts. One failed horribly, and one succeeded so far wonderfully. The big failure was yesterday. Down in South Texas, the SpaceX facility, they did another static test. Well, it appeared they were trying to actually launch the rocket because they got FAA approval to go up to, I think, 18,000 feet. They cleared the airspace. But this is their Starship. This is the big rocket. This is the one that's, Saturn V, roughly, Saturn V size. It's very big. It's what they want to use to go to the moon. Much larger than the Falcon 9. Anyway, they did another test of the engine on the rocket, all loaded up in operating vehicle. and the engine test appeared to go okay to outside observers, but after the engine test, there was evidently something happened. There was a leak of fuel and/or oxidizer, and there was a massive fireball that produced a big explosion. This is the fourth such big problem. Most of them involved with structural problems that caused the rocket to collapse and then release all the fuel. So, the rule for new rockets is failure, failure, failure. Your first few tries probably do not work. And this happened for the U.S. space program back in the 50s, even into the early 60s, when there were a lot of failures. And fortunately, the initial rockets that shot up the different rockets for the Mercury, and the Gemini and the Apollo turned out to be rather safe. We were just lucky there, I think. Anyway, so, big failure on Friday. Big success earlier today. SpaceX shot up the Falcon 9, which has been a very successful and reliable rocket. With their Dragon, it's a prototype Dragon 2 crew capsule. They are certified for regular flights to the International Space Station. This was the first crew capsule flight with humans in it. So there were two astronauts, both of which had already been to the ISS in the past, both of which are married to female astronauts, which I believe had also been to the ISS. So two astronaut families. And they had a perfect launch. The booster, the main booster, landed on the drone ship, and that all worked perfectly. And the launch all worked perfectly up into orbit. Right now, they are making, over the next few hours, 5 burns to adjust their orbit at different places to get them slightly beneath the ISS and lower orbit, and then they will raise it to rendezvous with it midday tomorrow. If they can rendezvous and safely dock, the astronauts will then go into the ISS, stay there for some time interval that's unknown. It's got to be less than about 100 days because that's the limit that their capsule can survive. But it might be short. I will let Kelly give many more details and other things, but it was a great launch. You could look at it, NASA TV. They had at least 3 cameras inside the capsule during the launch, so you could see what it looked like from their vantage point, as well as you could see them. It was great. It was the best launch I've ever seen of a spacecraft with humans in it. Amazing. And that's all I've got. And I hope Kelly can fill in with lots more cool details. This was the most exciting thing in human spacecraft in several decades. Inside BB. That's all I got.
Well, thank you, Bill. It has been an exciting several days. Been exciting over the last several months for lots of reasons, but it's been an exciting day today and over the last days. All right, we need to see if there's any more check-ins. If you want to join us and get credit for it, you know that gets a little star next to your name. If you get so many stars, Tom will give you some sort of gift. I don't know what it is, but he'll give you some sort of gift if you have enough stars next to your name. But if you'd like to come now and get credit for being here at Skynet, come now with your call sign and your name and your location.
Whiskey 5, Tango, X-Ray, X-Ray, Jake, and Rowlett.
Kilo India 5, Delta Echo Charlie, Greg, and Rowlett.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, and Carrollton.
All right, James, you're going to have to move because the previous two guys are from Rowlett. So Jake, and Greg, and James, welcome to Skynet. Is there any other people out there that'd like to check in for Skynet? Come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Ray, Riverside, Southern California.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman on Echo Link.
Ray, thank you for joining us from Riverside, California. And Billy, welcome. She's one of our net controls for Skynet. Thank you for being here. Okay, we're up to on the, let's see now, on the script. Yeah, we have a script of something called the topic of the evening, and that's up to the net control. That would be me. But I usually have a segment called Was Up, and I'm also been doing Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, so those two are married together, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So, just to let you know, once again, I'm KF5, JHA. My name is Chaz. My degree is in astrophysics at Brookhaven Community College, and we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. I'll also be doing Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. But first, let's get to Was Up. Yesterday, on May the 29th, the moon was at its first quarter phase. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. The moon will be full on June the 5th. The moon will be at its third quarter phase on June the 13th, and the moon will be new on June the 21st. If you get up just a little bit after midnight, or just stay up a little bit longer on June the 8th or the 9th, you can find the moon next to Jupiter and Saturn. It'll be just to the west of them on the 8th. It'll be just to the, it'll be on to the right of them on the 8th, and on the left side of Jupiter and Saturn on the 9th. Remember that by December, Jupiter and Saturn will be so close together that they will appear as one object to the unaided eye. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to that event. On June the 13th, the moon will be in conjunction with Mars, the planet Mars. Mars and the Earth are getting closer and closer to each other. In October, Mars and the Earth will be at their closest that they've been since the summer of 2018. Usually when we're close together, we send some objects that direction, and we'll probably talk about that in future Skynets, about what spacecraft we're sending in that direction. On June the 19th, it's early to observe the moon and Venus. Yeah, Venus has been in the evening sky for about 9 months, but it's switching right now into the morning sky, and on June the 19th, you can observe the moon and Venus in conjunction with the Hyades star cluster. The Hyades star cluster is the face of Taurus the Bull. That's kind of interesting. And on June 23rd in the evening, the thin crescent moon will be passing by the Beehive star cluster. It's also known as M44. That's in the constellation of Cancer the Crab. If you've got a telescope or if you've got some sort of device that can take pictures that are close up of this, you might be able to get the Beehive star cluster and the thin crescent moon in the same field of view easily. That'll be a good picturesque view. There are two meteor showers in June that can be watched. The June Lyrids will peak on the night of June the 16th and 17th. The June Lyrid meteor shower has only been observed a few times since 1966. It could have a couple of dozen meteors per hour, or it might no meteors. The second meteor shower is the June Boötes. They seem to emanate from the constellation of Boötes, which peak on the night of June the 26th, 27th. Once again, it varies in intensities. It goes from 0 meteors up to more than 100 meteors per hour. Could be interesting to look at those meteor showers. So this is the end of Was Up segment, and now is the beginning of Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, which is named in honor of a silent key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week from almost its very beginnings in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are over 50 constellations out of the 88 total constellations visible in Texas throughout the year, Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we have continued the tradition of the constellation per week. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is Coma Berenices, or Coma Berenices. It means Berenice's hair. It's a constellation that's actually named after Queen Berenice II of Egypt. Her hair, that is. It's kind of a hairy deal to me. If you know who I am, then you've seen my picture. Oh, well, you know what I'm talking about. So, Coma Berenices was recognized as an asterism, which used to belong to the constellation of Leo, the lion. Tycho Brahe was the first to recognize it as a distinct constellation. The constellation is one of the constellations to be named after a historical figure. In this case, it's after Queen Berenice II of Egypt, wife of Ptolemy III, the king who helped Alexandria become an important cultural center. While Ptolemy III was in a dangerous engagement against the, secluded? Okay, I don't know. Berenice swore to the goddess Aphrodite that she would sacrifice her long blonde hair in return for Ptolemy's safe return. He did return safely, and she had her hair cut and placed in the temple. The hair disappeared, said that Aphrodite was so pleased with the sacrifice that she threw the hair into the sky. Right now, the constellation Coma Berenices can be found tonight almost directly overhead between the constellations of Boötes and Leo. There are lots of things to take note of in this constellation. Alpha Coma and Beta Coma are and a very special object, NGC 4565, will be covered by Mike later on. Mike is KG5P. But let me talk about several other things until we get there. Initially, I had 7 pages of information on this small-sized constellation, but I really cut it down to about 3 pages. So we might have time for other segments tonight, but maybe not. We'll see. Millet 111 is the Coma star cluster. To the naked eye, it is visible. It's made up of 5th and 6th magnitude stars, but you've got to be away from the city lights to be able to see it. It's a real cluster of stars, not just a chance alignment of stars. It's also known as another designation of Colander 226. The cluster consists of about 80 members scattered across about 5 degrees of the sky. It's about 260 light years away. The cluster is one of the nearest open clusters. For many people, the cluster is not just Coma Berenices, it is Coma Berenices. The next object I want to talk about is M53, which is the compact globular cluster. You know, there's 2 kinds of star clusters, the globulars that were formed about the same time as our galaxy, and open star clusters, which are fairly new. The globular star clusters are all about the same size, and they're about the same size of our sun. So all those stars are about the same size. Okay. It looks like a fuzzy star, that star cluster does, in an 80 millimeter, that would be 80 millimeter in diameter, refractor at about 8 power. At about 16 power, it has some width, and at 38 power, it's a noticeable brighter core surrounded by a faint wispy outer regions. But it's not able to be resolved, no individual stars. And an 8-inch telescope, however, it just begins to resolve. More aperture is needed to better resolve it, and you can actually see individual stars in a 12-inch or larger telescope. M64 might be the most famous of all the objects in this constellation, the Black Eye Nebula. In an 80 millimeter telescope, it is just a tiny smudge at 8 power, and it's a noticeable elliptical shape at 16 power. In an 8-inch telescope, though, it has an obvious stellar nucleus. The nucleus is surrounded by a fuzzy oval. The dark dust bands in the black eye are not visible at this level. You need to have a larger telescope. In a 12-inch or larger telescope, it begins to look like its namesake. M85 is seen in an 80 millimeter telescope. It's visible only with averted vision at 8 power. It's a tiny and more noticeable at 16 power. At 38 power, it's a little bit better view. It's still small, and its very bright core could be seen compared to its fuzzy outside. And an 8-inch M45 appears as a fuzzy oval with a bright core. Nearby NGC 4394 is also visible. It's interesting, if you've got the right telescope and the right eyepiece, you can see both of them in the same field of view. Photographs show M88 to be a nice spiral galaxy. It is obliquely angled, in other words, tilted a little bit, similar to M31 Andromeda Galaxy. In fact, Stephen J. O'Meara writes that astronomer John Mallis adaptedly described M88 as representing the Andromeda Galaxy, depicting it as a small-scale version of it in a photograph. In a 16-inch stub, you should be able to see modeling in M88, but it may be hard to pick out individual dust lanes. And my call sign is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. M91 is a barred spiral galaxy. Many observers find it hard to see much detail in this galaxy. In an 8-inch telescope, M91 is not a knock-your-socks off Messier object, but appears as a small, round fuzzball at 41 power. At 84 power, it shows a little bit better, and at 126 power, you can see a bright core surrounded by fainter fuzziness. I only have about 50 more objects to go. M98 is nearly edge-on spiral galaxy. In a 12-inch or larger telescope, it is a great galaxy to observe with modeling from that galaxy caused by its dust lanes. And the M98 appears as an elongated, fuzzy streak in an 8-inch telescope. James O'Meara, in his book, The Messier Objects, makes a note of interest to Star Trek fans that the bright regions in the galaxy take on the outline of an approaching Klingon ship. Oh, yeah, if you look in the background, I'm sure Tom has MTV with Star Trek on right now. M99 is a face-on spiral galaxy that looks lopsided with 2 arms on one side and one larger arm on the other side. Wonder what it would be like having 3 arms. With large aperture, good transparency, and dark skies are required to make out the spiral structure. It looks like a round fuzzy blob, slightly brighter at the center. M100 is another face-on spiral that also has low surface brightness. Face-on meaning, well, the light is spread out. So the same rules apply for M99 as to M100. You can see the spiral structure in a 16-inch Dob and higher magnification. In photographs, M100 is a beautifully symmetrical spiral with much detail in its structure that's invisible to visual observers. Actually, I only have a couple more objects. NGC, that means New General Catalog. 4889 is an elliptical galaxy. If you notice, almost all these things are galaxies. It's a challenge to see how many neighboring galaxies you could see around NGC 4889, such as the very nearby NGC 4874. You've got to study them closely because you could get them mixed up. In an 8-inch telescope, NGC 4889 is a faint fuzzball. NGC 4874 is also visible and about equally bright. NGC 4559 is a nice spiral galaxy that is fairly bright in telescopes, which makes it a good challenging object to look for in binoculars. In an 8-inch telescope, it appears as a slightly elongated fuzzball with some faint stars on either side of it, along with some other fainter stars in the same field of view. Now, there's one more object I want to mention, but I'm not much about it, NGC 4565, because Mike, KG5P, is going to talk about it. It's called the Needle Galaxy, but I'll let him talk about that in more detail. My call sign is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Now, there are over 70 more Astronomical League observing program objects in this constellation of Coma Berenices. I've just given you examples of a few of those objects, and the Astronomical League has over 60 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe 10 different objects from an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate in about a year. So that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Coma Berenices. And I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research on deep sky objects that I've used tonight, and I've stolen a lot of their words. I'm not sure, well, I do know what the constellation is next week, but I'll talk about that maybe later. All right, the Texas Astronomical Society, once again, will have its June meeting on June 26th, and it will feature Don Pettit. Now, if Tom is showing you a picture, there's actually 4 ham radio operators in that picture. Don Pettit's in there. Okay, that's KD5MDP. Kelly, K5KTX. Billy, KF5PDS. And you can see my hand in there, KF5JHA. I actually videoed this interview that was made back in March of 2015, and it's on my YouTube channel. If you search Don Pettit interview on Skynet, March 21, 2015, you'll find it, and you can watch it. I hope that we will have face-to-face meetings sometime in the future, and that we'll have public observing sessions sometime soon. Once again, texasastro.org is where you can find details about that. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any information, or do you just have a general question on astronomy? I don't know everything by any means, but I may know the answer to your question. So now, if you have a question. Oh, no, I didn't hear anything from Mike. Okay, well, that's all we're going to do for now. I'll do check-ins. Once again, if you want to check into Skynet, come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Hey,
Actually, I did have a question for you. KG5P.
All right, KG5P. I'm sorry, I was too quick on the draw. Mike, come now with your question.
Okay, well, I don't have a gay question tonight. You'd mentioned the Beehive cluster. I missed the date on that. Beehive is an interesting cluster, and you can actually eyeball it on a dark night. It's also called Praesepe, and it's right in the middle of Cancer, which is an extremely difficult, probably the most difficult of all of the zodiac constellations. It takes me half an hour to look at it, look back in the book, and look back at the constellation. I do that for about a half an hour before I can actually identify it. But the Beehive cluster, it's right there. You can even see it on a dark night with your eyeballs. So what night was that going to be? I mean, it's visible every night, but you said it's going to be near the moon, I think you said, or something like that. What exactly was the date on that, Chaz? KG5P.
Thank you so much, Mike. That's on June 23rd in the evening, just after it gets dark. The moon will be right next to it. In fact, the moon might be occulting. That means blocking the stars, the outlying stars in the Beehive. Once again, that's called the M44, one of those Messier objects. So June 23rd in the evening sky until it gets too low to see on the horizon. Does that help you out, Mike?
Yes, it did. Yeah, I wrote down that date, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, if it's going to be near the moon will probably wipe it out because it's just at the edge of visibility, even on a dark night like at the Texas Star Party. So, but thanks, KG5P.
You're welcome, Mike. That's actually going to be a real thin crescent moon, so you should be able to do it. If you get the thin crescent moon in there, you might be able to see the Beehive easily in the field of view. Okay, space exploration and space history. Hey, we've been waiting for this one. Kelly, K5KTX, Mayor, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. This is K5KTX, and as Bill mentioned earlier, if you did not get to see the launch today, then you really missed a treat. I was all set Friday night to just believe that it was not going to happen because the weather was at about 50% chance of them actually being green for weather. So I just assumed that it probably wasn't going to happen, but I'm sure glad that I took the time to watch it. It was an absolutely beautiful launch. So for the first time in history, NASA astronauts have launched from American soil in a commercially built and operated American crew spacecraft on its way to the International Space Station. The SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft carrying NASA astronauts Robert Behnken and Douglas Hurley lifted off at 3:22 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time today on the company's Falcon 9 rocket from Launch Complex 30 at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, Florida. Known as NASA's SpaceX Demo 2, the mission is an end-to-end test flight to validate the SpaceX Crew Transportation System, including launch, in-orbit docking, and landing operations. This is SpaceX's second space flight test of its Crew Dragon and its first test with astronauts aboard, which will pave the way for its certification for regular crew flights to the station as part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. The program demonstrates commitment to investing in commercial companies through public-private partnerships and builds on the success of American companies, including SpaceX, already delivering cargo to the space station. SpaceX controlled the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket from Kennedy's Launch Control Center Firing Room 4, the former Space Shuttle Control Room, which SpaceX has leased as its primary launch control center. As Crew Dragon ascended into space, SpaceX commanded the spacecraft from its Mission Control Center in Hawthorne, California. NASA teams are monitoring space station operations throughout the flight from Mission Control Center at the Agency Johnson Space Center in Houston. The SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft is scheduled to dock to the space station at 9:29 a.m. That's Central Time tomorrow morning. Just want to make sure that you wake up in time, and that is the Central time at 9:29 tomorrow morning. NASA TV and the agency's website are providing ongoing live coverage of the Crew Dragon's trip to the orbiting laboratory. Behnken and Hurley are working with SpaceX mission engineer verify the spacecraft is performing as intended by testing the environmental control system, the displays and control system, and by maneuvering the thrusters, among other things. The first docking maneuver began earlier today at 3:09 p.m., and the spacecraft will begin its close approach to the station at about 7:27 a.m. tomorrow morning. Crew Dragon is designed to dock autonomously, but the crews on board the spacecraft and the space station will diligently monitor the performance of the spacecraft as it is and docks to the forward port of the station's Harmony module. After successfully docking, the crew will be welcomed aboard the International Space Station, where they will become members of the Expedition 63 crew, which currently includes NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy. NASA will continue live coverage through hatch opening and the crew welcoming ceremony. The crew will perform tests on Crew Dragon in addition to conducting research and other tasks with the space station crew. The Demo 2 mission is the final major test before the Commercial Crew Program certifies Crew Dragon for operational long-duration missions to the space station. As SpaceX's final flight test, it will evaluate all aspects of its crew transportation system, including the Crew Dragon spacecraft, spacesuits, Falcon 9 launch vehicle, Launch Pad 39A, and operations capabilities. While en route to the station, Bacon and Hurley took control of Crew Dragon for 2 manual flight tests, demonstrating their ability to control the spacecraft should an issue with the spacecraft's automated flight arise. Today, on Saturday, May 30th, while the spacecraft is coasting, the crew will test its roll and yaw. When Crew Dragon is about 1 kilometer below the station and moving around to the docking axis, the crew will conduct manual in-orbit demonstrations of the control system in the event it were needed. After pausing, rendezvous will resume, and mission managers will make a final decision about whether to proceed to docking as Crew Dragon approaches 20 meters. For operational missions, Crew Dragon will be able to launch as many as 4 crew members at a time and carry more than 220 pounds of cargo, allowing for an increased number of crew members aboard the space station and increasing the time dedicated to research in the unique microgravity environment, as well as returning more science back to Earth. The Crew Dragon being used for this flight test can stay in orbit about 110 days, and the specific mission duration will be determined once on station based on the readiness of the next commercial crew launch. The operational Crew Dragon spacecraft will be capable of staying in orbit for at least 210 days as a NASA requirement. So again, if you didn't get to see the launch, I highly recommend to do a search and see if you can find a replay. It was a beautiful launch. All right, moving on to the Perseverance rover. As we had an exciting launch today, but we have another big launch coming up. Between the launch window opens for Perseverance between July 17th and August the 11th. The Mars 2020 rover will land at Mars Zero Crater on February the 18th, 2021. So as I've done in the past few weeks, I thought it would take a few minutes during my time on this net to briefly tell you about the instruments on board this rover. This week's instrument is probably my favorite one for this mission. And I'm K5KTX. Well, Mars is a long way from 221B Baker Street, but one of fiction's best detectives will be represented on the Red Planet after NASA's Perseverance rover touches down on February the 18th. Sherlock, an instrument on the end of the rover's robotic arm, will hunt for sand grain-sized clues in Martian rocks while working in tandem with Watson, a camera that will take close-up pictures of rock textures. Together they will study rock surfaces, mapping out the presence of certain minerals and organic molecules, which are the basic building blocks of life on Earth. Sherlock was built at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California, which leads the Perseverance mission. Watson was built at Malin Space Science Systems in San Diego. For the most promising rocks, the Perseverance team will command to take half-inch wide core samples, store and seal them in metal tubes, and deposit them on the surface of Mars so that a future mission can return them to Earth for more detailed study. Sherlock will be working with 6 other instruments aboard Perseverance to give us a clearer understanding of Mars. It's even helping the effort to create spacesuits Martian environment when humans set foot on the red planet. Here's a closer look. Sherlock's full name is a mouthful. Scanning habitable environments with Raman and luminescence for organics and chemicals. Whew. Raman refers to Raman spectroscopy, a scientific technique named after the Indian physicist C.V. Raman, who discovered the light scattering effect in the 1920s. While traveling by ship, he was trying to discover why the color of the sea was blue. He realized if you shine a light beam on a it can change the wavelength of scattered light depending on the materials in that surface. This effect is called Raman scattering. Scientists can identify different molecules based on the distinctive spectral fingerprint visible in their emitted light. An ultraviolet laser that is part of Sherlock will allow the team to classify organics and minerals present in a rock and understand the environment in which the rock formed. Salty water, for example, can result in the formation of different minerals than fresh water. The team will also be looking for astrobiology clues in the form of organic molecules, which, among other things, serve as potential biosignatures demonstrating the presence of life in Martian past. Non-biological processes can also form organics, so detecting the compounds isn't a sure sign that life formed on Mars, but organics are crucial to understanding whether the ancient environment could have supported life. When the science team spots an interesting rock, they'll scan a quarter-sized area of it with Sherlock's laser to tease out the mineral composition and whether organic compounds are present. Then Watson, which stands for Wide-Angle Topographic Sensor for Operations and Engineering, will take close-up images of the sample. It can snap images of Perseverance, too. NASA's Curiosity rover uses the same camera, called the Mars Hand Lens Imager, on that vehicle for science and for taking selfies. But combined with Sherlock, Watson can do even more. The team can precisely map Sherlock's findings over Watson's images to help reveal how mineral layers formed and overlap. They can also combine the mineral maps with data from other instruments, among them Pixel, or on Perseverance's robotic arm, to see whether a rock could hold signs of fossilized microbial life. Any science instrument exposed to Martian environment for long enough is bound to change, either from the extreme temperature swings or the radiation from the sun and cosmic rays. Scientists occasionally have to calibrate these instruments, which they do by measuring their readings against calibration targets, essentially objects with known properties selected in advance for cross-checking purposes. For instance, a penny serves as one calibration target aboard Curiosity. Since they know in advance what the reading should be when an instrument is working correctly, scientists can make adjustments accordingly. About the size of a smartphone, Sherlock's calibration target includes 10 objects, including a sample of a Martian meteorite traveled to Earth and was found in the Oman Desert in 1999. Studying how this meteorite fragment changes over the course of the mission will help scientists understand the chemical interactions between the planet's surface and its atmosphere. While scientists are returning fragments of Mars back to the surface of the red planet to further their studies, they're counting on Perseverance to gather dozens of rock and soil samples for future return to Earth. The samples the rover collects will be exhaustively studied with data taken from the landscape in which they formed, and they'll include different rock types than the meteorites. The Martian meteorite are 5 samples of spacesuit fabric and helmet material developed by NASA's Johnson Space Center. Sherlock will take readings of these materials as they change in the Martian landscape over time, giving spacesuit designers a better idea of how they degrade. When the first astronauts step onto Mars, they might have Sherlock to thank for the suits that keep them safe. And this is K5KTX, and now on to space history for this past week, beginning with May the 24th, back in 1962. At 7:40 a.m. Eastern Time, astronaut Scott Carpenter left Florida on top of the Mercury Atlas 7, or MA7, to become the 4th American in space and the 2nd American to orbit the Earth. Carpenter's mission followed the same profile as John Glenn's orbital flight 3 months earlier in order to provide more data on astronaut performance in orbit. In his Mercury spacecraft, the Aurora 7, Scott Carpenter did just that, confirming the success of the Mercury Atlas 6, or John Glenn's mission. Carpenter completed 3 revolutions of Earth in 4 hours and 56 minutes. Some problems with automatic control and stabilization system, combined with a rushed checklist, the return to Earth was not as successful as the rest of the mission. The Aurora splashed down in the Atlantic Ocean at 12:41 p.m. Eastern, but had overshot the intended landing area by 250 nautical miles. After 3 hours floating in his raft, Carpenter was picked up by a helicopter sent from the USS Intrepid, and the capsule was retrieved approximately 6 hours later. May the 26th, this past week, would have been Sally Ride's birthday. I think it would have been her 69th birthday. Ride was a pioneer in many ways. She was among the candidates in NASA's first integrated astronaut class. The class of 1978 included the first blacks and Asians. Ride was not only America's first woman in space, she was also a professor of physics and an educator. As an astronaut, she flew the shuttle twice as a mission specialist, logging a total of more than 340 hours in space. On May the 28th, 2002, NASA announced that the Mars Odyssey spacecraft had detected large quantities of water ice below the surface of Mars. Odyssey carried a gamma-ray spectrometer instrument suite that was able to detect water based on measuring the intensity of gamma rays and neutrons emitted by the hydrogen in water. The instruments had the ability to observe this neutron intensity within a depth of 1 meter below the surface, indicating that water ice is present at least that far down. On May the 29th, back in 1999, Space Shuttle Discovery, STS-96, became the first spacecraft to dock with the International Space Station. Discovery, crewed by astronauts Kent Rominger, Rick Husband, Ellen Ochoa, Tammy Jernigan, Dan Barry, Julie Payette of the Canadian Space Agency, and Valery Tokarev of the Russian Space Agency, spent over 5 days and hours docked with the ISS. The crew transferred 3,567 pounds of supplies, including 84 gallons of water. They also performed housekeeping tasks for the benefit of future crews that would on the ISS, such as cleaning filters and checking smoke detectors. There would be 3 more shuttle missions, STS-101, 106, and 92, and the arrival of the Zvezda service module before the space station would be ready to host a long-term crew. Expedition 1 docked to the ISS on November 2nd, 2000. In May 30th, 1971, the Mariner 9 probe launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Following Mariner 8's failed launch 22 days earlier, Mariner 9 became the first mission to successfully orbit Mars. 3 previous Mariner missions had flown by Mars and sent back a limited amount of data. Getting into orbit around Mars was considerably more challenging, but allowed for a far greater analysis. Mariner 9 arrived in the sky above Mars during a massive planet-wide dust storm that prevented quality images from being taken. After a month, the storm subsided, and Mariner 9 began mapping the surface. Its findings were groundbreaking. The cartography revealed ancient riverbeds, massive volcanoes, and a 3,000-mile-long canyon. Mars's moons Phobos and Deimos were also photographed from close range for the first time. After 1 bountiful year in orbit, contact was lost with Mariner 9. It remains in a decaying orbit around Mars. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5 KTX.
Mayor Kelly, thank you so much. Okay, the next that we have up is Mike, KG5P. You've got a few minutes. Why don't you talk about Alpha and Beta Berenices, Coma Berenices, and then briefly talk about NGC 4565. You've got about 5 minutes according to my clock. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Chaz. Okay, well, I was just going to talk about basically 2 stars and a deep sky object. Coma Berenices is not particularly interesting by itself. There's really not much in there to see with the naked eye, but there's a lot that abides in that direction. It's called the realm of the galaxy. So scientifically, there's a great deal of stuff in there. Chaz had talked about the Messier objects. There's about 8 or so Messier objects in there. So it's got a good portion, 8 out of the 100 or so Messier objects. One of the stars I was going to talk about was Diadem or Alpha. Now, Alpha is usually, the Alpha star is usually the brightest one in the constellation. But in this particular case, it's not. The Beta is actually brighter. The Alpha is only about 5 magnitudes, but it happens to be a double star, and consists of 2 yellow-white F-class dwarfs, and they have an orbit that's virtually edge-on, so the components appear to move back and forth along the line, which is kind of interesting because it's like an edge-on orientation. Okay, and again, it's only about a magnitude 5 star, which is almost at the limit of visibility without a telescope. Okay, the interesting star is Beta Coma, Berenices. It's a sun-like star, basically, and if you what the sun would look like from a distance of about 10 parsecs, you can use Beta Coma Berenices. 10 parsecs is about 3.2 light years, and it's very similar to the sun. It lies quite near it on the HR diagram. It's a little bit more massive. It's a little bit, maybe 1.5 more times more luminous, and it's about slightly warmer than the sun at about 6,000 degrees Kelvin. Okay. Its distance is approximately 9 parsecs. But it's quite interesting because you can look at it and see what the sun would look like from that particular distance. Okay, it's also used as a kind of I guess you'd call like a distance measuring benchmark to calculate absolute stellar magnitudes, because we know pretty much what it is because it has about the same brightness as the sun. Okay. The interesting object is NGC 4565, which is also called the Needle Galaxy. And actually, it does look kind of like a needle. It's long and it's edge-on, and it has a dark kind of a line that goes through, which is gas. And it tells us much about the galaxy formation and evolution, this plus a couple other galaxies that we know. It's about 12 megaparsecs from us, so it's about over 1 million times as distant as Beta, the Beta star. But it has kind of a subtle shape, and it's quite interesting because it has this dark band that goes right down the center. It looks very similar to the Sombrero Galaxy, but it's even longer and more needle-like. Now, there's a couple other stars near it, which some would call fluff, and there's not particularly much interesting about that, but those of you that have been to the Texas Star Party probably know Larry Mitchell. And Larry has compiled all these stars, a lot of these stars in the Mitchell Anonymous catalog. It has over 117,000 very faint galaxies. Larry's an interesting guy. He has a 12-inch, or last time I was there, he had a 16-inch telescope, but I guess he got tired of bringing hauling his 36-inch around. But he was, if you know, up here at the North Field, you'll see Larry's telescope up there, a big, huge 36-inch monster. The mere cell alone weighs about 400 pounds. But there's a few people that go to the Texas Star Party that are, I'm not sure what Larry's day job is, but he's kind of on the border between an amateur and a professional. I'd say more of a professional because he's published a lot of stuff. A few other people, of course, you might know are Robert Reeves and Keith Venables, that are either very professional amateurs or right on the cusp of being amateurs and professional. So that's about all I had. By the way, this NGC 4565 Galaxy can be easily seen with a 16-inch mead such as what Chaz has. So that's all I had. Back to net KG5P.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that. I haven't been able to use my 16-inch telescope. Was going to use it a couple times. Actually, probably 3 times this spring, but some things have gotten in the way. Hey, Tom, KE5ICX. Can you give us a brief summary of some space launches? Of course, there was one earlier today. I don't know. It was some sort of minor thing. But can you give us a few things? And then we have some time for Brenda to talk to us about on astronomical discoveries then.
All right, thank you, Chaz. We keep repeating some of the things here, but yes, of course, the Dragon launch today, which was perfect. It was great to see, and I love the video and everything that they did with it was just fantastic. It's really great. The folks at SpaceX have perfected the craft of being able to give us a complete space launch from ground up. It is pretty cool, and I'm really looking forward to the future missions as they continue to do that, and of course the docking tomorrow. All right, I'm just going to give you just one tomorrow. Long March 2D, the Golfin 902. This will launch at 5 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's tomorrow from Zhuquan, China. A Chinese Long March 2D will launch from Chinese second Golfin 9 series Earth observation satellite. That's what I've got here. Let's see, one other I'll give is the Falcon 9 Starlink 7, part of the constellation of internet satellites going up. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket is expected to launch the 8th batch of approximately 60 satellites from SpaceX Starlink broadband for the Starlink broadband network, designated Starlink 7. And they show a bunch of delays. That's caused by all sorts of, you got one pad and several different rockets that can launch from it, so that's it. Okay, I'm going to send it back to you because we're getting late. KE5ICX, back to net control.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, recent astronomical discoveries. Brenda, we can go over. Some mysterious island doesn't need as much time as what they're scheduled for, so we'll go a few minutes beyond. Brenda, WB5OZL, talk to us about some recent astronomical discoveries.
Thank you, Chaz. This is WB5OZL. This article is entitled Espresso Confirms the Presence of an Earth Around the Nearest Star. The existence of a planet the size of Earth around the closest star in the solar system, Proxima Centauri, has been confirmed by an international team of scientists, including researchers from the University of Geneva. Sorry, I had to eject the cat. The results, which you can read all about in the journal Astronomy and Astrophysics, revealed that the planet in question, Proxima b, has a mass of 1.17 Earth masses and is located in the habitable zone of its star, which it orbits in 11.2 days. This breakthrough has been possible thanks to radial velocity measurements of unprecedented precision using Espresso, the Swiss-manufactured spectrograph, the most accurate currently in operation, which is installed on the large telescope in Chile. Proxima b was first detected 4 years ago by means of an older spectrograph, HARPS, also developed by the Geneva-based team, which measured a low disturbance in the star speed suggesting the presence of a companion. The espresso spectrograph has performed radial velocity measurements on the star Proxima Centauri, which is only 4.2 light years from the Sun, with an accuracy of 30 centimeters a second. Our boundaries are more precise than that obtained with HARPS, the same type of instrument from which but from the previous generation.
Afterglow movie.
We were already very happy with the performance of HARPS, which has been responsible for discovering hundreds of exoplanets within the last 17 years, says Francesco Pepe, a professor in the astronomy department in UNIGE's Faculty of Science and the man in charge of espresso. We're really pleased that espresso can produce even better measurements and is gratifying and just rewarding, lasting nearly 10 years. I think I'll skip down. It's kind of a long article. So what about life on all this? Although Proxima B is about 20 times closer to its star than the Earth is to the Sun, it receives comparable energy, so that its surface temperature could mean that water, if there is any, is in liquid form in places and might therefore harbor life. Having said that, although Proxima B is an ideal candidate for biomarker research, there is still a long way to go before we can suggest that life has been able to develop on its surface. In fact, the Proxima star is an active red dwarf that bombards this planet with X-rays, receiving about 400 times more than the Earth. All right, I'll stop there. This is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. We're just running just a minute or so late, so let me see if I can get some last-minute check-ins. If you'd like to get your name with that gold star, excuse me, I don't think we'll get that gold, with that star next to it for participating in Skynet, please come now with your call sign and your name and your location, please. Okay, I guess the count is 31, including Bethany. Okay, she's not a ham, but she's sitting beside one. So 31 hams tonight. Let's see. I'm closed out. So yes, we thank all of you that checked in this evening. I hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space exploration on this net, where the sky is never the limit, and you'll have a different, probably much better net control. We're always looking for other net control stations for any of the DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, hey, if I can do this, anybody can do this. Send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5, JHA, Chaz, and I'll be closing this net at, let's see now, 22:33 local time, and returning the repeater to normal. Oh, well, almost normal, because we're getting ready to go to the afterglow. Amateur use. 73, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the evening discovering the universe. Keep on looking up.
Oh, thank you, Chaz. We get you once every 3 months, but you haul the freight every time. We'll start the Afterglow Movie Net here in about 5 minutes. Mysterious Island from 1961. 5 minutes. Out of your noses. Come back then. KE5I6.
This is K5A for a signal check before the Apscalanet.
Okay, you're a little spotty. You may want to increase power.
This is K5A&E repositioned. How do I sound?
That's a lot better. You're about 10% noise, and you're holding the repeater. I think that'll be fine. It's much improved from what you were before. KE5I6.
KE5ICX, K5A&E, thanks for the report. Visiting with a friend right now, so testy transmission zone. Eager to join the net.
All right, are you net control tonight? I'm not sure who's net control tonight. Who is net control?
Aren't you net control?
Am I net control? I don't know. Should I be net control? I thought somebody else was net control, but I could be net control. If you're not net control, somebody's net control.
That's it.
I wasn't told I was in control.
Michael, are you net control?
Maybe? If not, I spent 5 minutes writing up some drivel to read for nothing.
Excellent.
Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well,
Welcome, one and all, to the... Let me try that again. 5, 4... Okay. Welcome, one and all, to tonight's feature presentation of the Afternoon, where we talk about a movie or a TV show, but usually a movie that we've somewhat collectively watched in our spare time, which I have less of these days, thanks to all those people wanting remote license exams. Speaking of, I'm sure you've heard that ham radio is dying and kids aren't interested. I find it interesting that the majority of the people I've given exams to don't yet have gray hair. And 6 or 7 of them in the last 2 weeks aren't even old enough to vote, like the 14-year-old girl who passed her tech in general today. But I guess if nobody tells them that they're not interested in ham radio, they won't know. I'm WT9V, and I'm just rambling, because 102 exam sessions in 2 weeks will do that to you. Of course, the rest of the team has done about 150 more than that, mind you. Complaining, just a little bit more scrambled than usual. But to business. What are we doing again? Oh, right. Afterglow. And the movie I haven't quite finished watching. Tom didn't say I actually watched to be net control, so maybe I'll use my time and talk about stuff that has nothing to do with the movie. I mean, there's a precedent, right? No? Okay, fine then. Insert Afterglow information. Oh, right, I wasn't supposed to read that part. As usual tonight, we'll discuss a movie. More on that later. Usually discussing, in theory, the plot, characterization, and special effects. That is, assuming we can stay reasonably close to the topic and not stray into other movies, TV shows, vacations, our history, childhood, and the child labor factories, etc. Mr. Tom lets us know what movie to watch ahead of time so that we'll have time to make notes and prepare snappy commentary for Saturday night, assuming one has time, which I didn't. Which is why I don't have any snappy commentary. If you're not on the notification list, send an email to our glorious leader, Mr. Tom, and he'll put you on the list. His email is, wait for it, KE5@yahoo.com. Or if you prefer, you can go to Afterglow Movie, which is 2 words, on Facebook, which is 1 word. So I've been having problems finding the list on there lately. Maybe it's just because Facebook doesn't like me. But that's okay. I don't like it either. Either way, you'll get notification of what the next week's movie is. Although, frankly, many times the movie that seems to be playing in Tom's head when he writes the descriptions seem to be more entertaining than the real movie. Go figure. Oh, anyway, so this afternoon, while I've been between test sessions, I read through the entire internet looking for something interesting to say about this movie, and almost all of them said pretty much the same thing. Quote, soldiers escaping the American Civil War take flight in a giant observation balloon and land far, far away on a strange, uncharted island, where they encounter giant creatures, cutthroat pirates, 2 shipwrecked English women, and the mysterious Captain Nemo. Sci-fi adventure based on Jules Verne's novel starring Michael Craig, Herbert Lom, Joan Greenwood, Michael Callan, with special effects by the infamous Ray Harryhausen. But I thought that was a bit skimpy. So I went back and read the internet again, and I found this. Based on Jules Verne's sequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, this enjoyable British production blends Sinbad-style giant monster thrills, pirates, volcanic eruptions, and, of course, Captain Nemo. Not James Mason this time, but Herbert Lom. The menagerie of monsters from stop-frame animation maestro Ray Harryhausen provides most of the film's highlights, as oversized bees and colossal crabs threaten the lives of Michael Craig, Joan Greenwood, and their companions. Although the rather colorless cast doesn't do much to raise excitement levels, Harryhausen's fine work and Bernard Herrmann's atmospheric score makes this fantasy island worth an excursion. Actually, that was before the first part, but I liked it better this way. However, still not satisfied, I turned over a rock and found this jewel. Filmed at least 9 times over the last 9 decades, Jules Verne's Mysterious Island receives its most popular picturization at the hands of producer Charles Schneer, director Cy Enfield, and special effects maestro Ray Harryhausen. Actually, there was more of it than that, but it's mostly regurgitation of the other bits that I already regurgitated. So please come now. Oh, don't come now with your call sign because I don't have a window up where I can write things down. Oh, let's see. No, wait. I gotta use 2 hands. Now, please come now with your call sign, name, location, and whether or not you did what I haven't done yet and watched this probably fine film. It's colorful at least. This is WT9V, and I'm all ears.
W5TXX. I'll let Alan know I didn't watch the movie.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving saw the movie. Yeah.
This is Kilo 5 Alpha November Echo. This is Kane. I'm on the North American continent, and yes, I saw most of the movie.
This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, Louisville. Yes, I saw the movie.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving? Yes, I saw the movie.
And turn this thing over and shake it a little bit. Maybe I'll knock some other people loose. Hello? Anybody out there?
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving. Yes, I saw the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. I enjoyed every morsel of it. I saw it and thoroughly enjoyed it. And next time don't shake so hard. I sprained my ankle.
Shake a little harder and then go for 2. Anybody else?
Kilo Golf. Yay. No weather on Echo Link, and yes, I saw it.
This killed old Papa Mount November, James, Oklahoma. Did not see the movie. I just listened. 8:05 p.m. in.
Yep, that's Jake. All right, anybody else? No? Okay. We'll circle around later and see if we can pick up some stragglers. Brenda will, Brenda will, round them up because she's in the back now. Let's see. Jake said no, he didn't. Do you have anything you want to say? I mean, you know, there's hardly anybody here. You could talk about nothing in particular if you want to. Jake, WT9V.
Well, I just thought I'd chime in and say hi since you happen to be, or I happen to be up late this evening, and I thought I'd check out the Afterglow net since you're always talking about it on the Richardson repeater, Michael. Anyway, yeah, I probably want to check out that movie just to watch it. I'm a big sci-fi and nerd for Jules Verne stuff, so I think I'll end up watching it in the long run. Back to you.
Oh, okay. There's a link on the Facebook page with where you can watch it without even having to spend any money, which is usually a good thing. Oh, let's see. Where'd my list go? Oh, yeah. N5HYP, Tom, other Tom, Tom 2, whatever. What do you got on your mind about characterization and things like that?
This is N5HYP. I'm only going to be run for one round here, so don't call on me after this. Saw a movie a long time ago. I don't know when, but the only parts I remembered about it were the giant animals, creatures, and when I saw it, I went, I've seen this before. I don't know where, I don't know how, but I had. Plot, kind of squirrely. Characterization, kind of squirrely. You knew there had to be some women showing up because you knew there had to be some good screams later on. The special effects were the winner in the movie. They were pretty good for 1961, I believe, was the year of the movie. I did have to admit that the purple chicken was a little bit bizarre, but it was the special effects with the giant creatures kind of made it interesting. The throwback to Captain Nemo, I'm trying to figure out how they stole him out of Disney's contract for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but apparently they did. And they did it by getting somebody else to do them. But aside from that, it was entertaining, strange, a little bit confusing, but mildly enjoyable. This is N5HYP. Good night. God bless.
Thank you, Tom, and good night. Brenda is harassing me on chat, saying that I sprained her ankle because I'm mean, and it's her own fault for not being in her seat with her lap belt fastened and her seat in the upright and locked position. Oh, that's the tray table. That too. Everything needed to be in the upright and locked position, so you only have yourself to blame, Brenda. Nah. K5A&E, what you got for us?
So, I'm incredibly glad that this movie was included, because I had no idea that there was a sequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This movie was incredible. Easily one of my favorite historical-ish kind of movies out there. Gosh, they did an incredible job. I've got so much to say as far as special effects and things like that, but, I mean, wonderful plot. Like, I mean, in the end, I'm a huge Civil War nerd, so I love that they brought in the idea of, like, reconnaissance balloons and things like that. And, I mean, it's Jules Verne, so it's incredible once again that, like, there's so much forward thinking as far as the idea of, like, genetic manipulation of creatures and things like that to produce more for, what we're wanting to do to try and solve war. I mean, gosh, such a classic Jules Verne novel, like, made into movies, because I'm familiar with the novel itself, and I've read it before. I had no idea that they had made a movie about it. And when I first saw the title of the movie, or first heard the title of the movie, I didn't even think about it being like a Jules Verne. I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those, whatever, science fiction movies that we watch that are, just kind of whatever. But, gosh, when I realized, like, wait, it's that book that I read a long time ago, this is incredible. I love it. So, yeah, in the end, I have to say, excellent movie choice. Hats off to whoever suggested it. I loved every minute of it. I didn't quite catch the ending, though, but I'm sure Lee spoiled me. But I think I can kind of guess it anyways. Thanks to the club, and thanks for picking out yet another great movie. This is K5ANE.
No, apparently, according to what I read, there's 8 other versions out there, which probably aren't as good. But that's okay. Can always watch another one, another version, another something. Anyway, Tom on screen. I'm talking to you, Tom. It's your turn, Tom. Pay attention. Get your microphone, Tom. KE5ICX from WT9V.
Okay, the plot. Well, it takes place during the Civil War, and that's really good, I guess, or bad. And Jules Verne says, sure, why not? And it was a sequel. Absolutely was a sequel. And even though we thought that the ship sunk and the submarine sunk, it's like anything else. It's a submarine. It doesn't really sink. Because that's what it does. If it doesn't sink, it's not a very good submarine. So the fact that it shows up again, and it looks like it might have copyright infringement since it had nothing to do with the Disney version, but it was pretty cool. How the hell a hot air balloon manages to go all the way across, I don't know, the United States, going in the wrong direction, the jet stream and all of that, I don't know, but somehow it ends up in some mysterious place, landing on the island of Big Crabs and Nemo and all of that. It's hard to say. I don't know. I'm not sure what to think about all of that, but somehow or another it got there. Let's see. And the eternal helium. Nothing ever happens, or whatever the hell the thing was in. That little tiny balloon that lofted everybody, and then for some reason it starts to run out of fuel because I don't know, a little hibachi up there that keeps the thing, the oxygen, the air heated. I don't know how you do that. It's like an iPod or iPhone or something keeping the thing heated. Now, it seems kind of cool. It seems really great in the sense that this whole idea of going to this mysterious island. That's the name of the movie. They go to this mysterious island, and then they get there, and they're boring. But that's characterization. They're busy talking to each other and being really boring about the boring parts about being boring. And then suddenly Ray Harryhausen's big, larger-than-life creatures show up, and then it gets interesting again, and that's cool. I like that. But they spend a lot of time just talking about nothing. At least they had a clam bake or whatever with the big, huge thing. That was kind of entertaining. I like that. I don't know. Where's James Mason when you need him? But I've got something on characterization later. So, I don't know. And then the ship being refloated like the Titanic and Raise the Titanic, or what was that other movie? I'm digressing. I know, a different movie. but that's okay, because they also did that with the Poseidon or something. It is sequel to the Poseidon adventure. Most people don't know that, but there was one, because there was a morning after. Now I got that song in my head. Back to net control. This is 5x6.
Here's where I'm supposed to say, well, thank you, Tom. And yeah, that's one of the things that I, a third of the way through the movie, have written down is like, what was in the balloon? I mean, had they invented helium back then? I don't think they'd invented helium back then. What was it full of? Prisoner farts? I don't know. Also, I'm unclear as to your feelings. Were you trying to imply that you thought the people in the movie were boring? No, that's a rhetorical question. Sorry, I'm watching Tom's face on the stream. My mistake. N5BB, Bill, you claimed to have watched this movie. Are you going to talk about this movie and the plot of this movie? If so, it is now your turn, Bill, from WT90.
Thank you, Michael. This is N5BB. I am so glad to be following Tom because I need to sit him down and correct him about a few of his statements. Number one, he has repeatedly said that they were in a hot air balloon. They were not in a hot air balloon. That's not the only kind of balloon. There is hot air balloons, the Montgolfier, or whatever their name was in France. They developed one, but hot air balloons were very rarely used until about the 1950s or 1960s. No, it was not a hot air balloon. There was no fire. No. Tom, you can't see it because it's not there. Because it's not a hot air balloon. So what kind of balloon was it? Well, we took a little bit of liberty with Jules Verne's novel. In the novel, it was a Union Army balloon that went up. And in the movie, as I understood it, it was a Confederate balloon, okay? And there were some Union Army troops who broke out of prison there and grabbed it with one Confederate person. That's a little different from the book. And so, just do a little Google search. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. You can use DuckDuckGo. Look for Union Army Balloon Corps. That's right, the Union Army Balloon Corps. There was a guy named Thaddeus, S.C. Lowe, L-O-W-E. You have to be named Thaddeus Lowe with two middle initials to really participate in something like this. He was getting ready to try the first transatlantic balloon trip when the Civil War, unfortunately, came rolling along. So he volunteered. He met with President Abraham Lincoln in 1861, and he demonstrated his balloon. From the lawn of the Armory, directly across the street from the White House, he went up 500 feet, and with a wire attached to it, he telegraphed a message to the president describing his view of Washington, D.C. So there was a Union Army Balloon Corps that they built several balloons. They were pretty successful. The Confederate Army saw the problem. They needed some kind of surveillance like that. And so they made some attempts. Their attempts with a hot air balloon did not work. And so they had fewer resources, and they had a very big difficulty. They made at least one balloon, but they had difficulty with it. So what did all these balloons have in them? Gas. Lighter than air gas. What kind of lighter than air gas? Well, sometimes they could use hydrogen, but usually a form of what they call coal gas or something. So if you heat up coal with no air, with no oxygen, it releases a whole bunch of gas. There's hydrogen and methane and CO2 and all kinds of stuff. And yes, that gas, that coal gas, is lighter than air. So in general, they use that. So where did you do this? At some industrial place that had a bunch of coal building steel and other stuff with it. And so that's how they got the coal gas. Anyway, the Union built 7 balloons, and they put 6 of them into service. This is a big thing. Each balloon had 2 gas-generating setups. Anyway, so now that we've got that set aside, they did have balloons. Now, in the movie, the narrator said there were some storms that came through that were just unprecedented, that were pulling the thing over to the west. Jules Verne didn't know about the jet stream. So he just said there were some storms. They knew very little about large-scale weather things. They were just figuring them out. After the telegraph had been invented, they were kind of figuring out real-time weather, but they didn't know much about it. Anyway, so now that we have straightened that up, that's the balloon setup. Other things about it, yes, Ray Harryhausen did a really neat job on the big crab in particular. I think I read that he took a real crab and he dissected it and just made an artificial thing based out of it he could use for his model for his stop action stuff. And I thought that the special effects were excellent. They looked extremely realistic, much better than many of the other movies. And the colors were nice and everything. They were silly, but he did what he was supposed to, and he did a really good job. Bernard Herrmann, he had the normal Bernard Herrmann score, and to me that was great. I liked it. Very booming and very deep and serious sounding. Herbert Lom. Remember the captain or whatever his rank was from the Pink Panther? Yes, that Herbert Lom with white hair. And he was a reasonable Captain Nemo. I mean, who else are you going to pick? There's only a few actors you could pick to do that, and he was an okay one. So, what else? The location they gave, 36 degrees south, negative 153, or I should say 153 degrees west. That is a real location, and it really is, as they said, within a couple thousand miles from New Zealand. It's kind of between New Zealand and Hawaii. What else? I think that's it, except there were a number of things which were incorrect for the time. So as I understand it, believe it or not, males having exposed chest in public was illegal in Western societies until the 1930s, when there was actually a group of men in New York that forced the ability for men to go out and to the beach without a top on, believe it or not. Yeah, men were not supposed to show nipples in public. So the fact that they had people, men with no tops on, and women showing their legs, like the girl, that was not allowed back then.
The
older woman, she had a nice long dress. That would have been okay. Anyway, I guess that's it. Another big monster movie. This is probably one of the later ones. I guess they continued it about 1965. Although The Fly came along later, the later reincarnation of the Fly. That's all I got. Info BB.
Well, since you went through all different parts of the net, I won't call on you next time around. WP50ZL. Brenda, is there anything left to say from WT90?
No. Oh, okay. This is WB50ZL. I agree with a lot of what's been said. The music was great. It's nice that it was in color. The acting was okay. It was okay. It wasn't great, but it was an entertaining film, and if I had seen it in 1961, I probably think it was really good. It had all the right elements. You know, it was a formula, and it had enough of the right elements and of sufficient quality that made it a fairly good movie. Do I want to see it again? Nah, not really. But it was okay for once. I'm glad I did. And, of course, I adore Harryhausen. But I don't like those big creatures. I didn't like the big crab. I had to look away. That was gross. And I remember my first eating crabs. I was about 5. And you broke these things open, and there was, like, guts inside. So I just magnify that by many times and think how gross that must be. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
I'm actually fairly certain that most animals have guts inside, although I haven't opened up all of them and checked yet. But I have opened up a few. Let's see, KT5WJ near Weatherford. What you got for us, Jay, from WT90?
This is KT5VZW. To say, well, I mean, you can't really talk about the movie without the special effects. Even though we got a special section for the special effects. Like the only thing I remember about the film, the plot was, somebody, maybe several people have said it was a little bit formulaic, and it was interesting, but just predictable, really. I mean, I guess you didn't really predict the involvement, the actual, well, you didn't, I'll admit, I didn't predict Captain Nemo showing up. You knew something was going on, of course, obviously. Just as, like, that was a little bit of a shock to see. Wait a second, this is a actual, okay, just, take the, just oriented myself to the story. And I have to admit that when the big reveal was getting well, this is kind of interesting. But, that, I mean, after, I don't know, there are parts where it was kind of cool and innovative, and parts where, okay, well, this is going to happen. yeah, we're just going to have some more fun facts here and blah, blah, blah. So, I don't really, I was pretty honest that Captain Nemo's gonna die. I don't know. Of course, here's the problem. I think I've seen this before. I don't know where, or why, or how. So, some of my predictions may really just be me remembering film. I have to admit, I was having trouble watching it. I really was going to have, sure if it was just my mood today, but I was hoping for something a little bit more exciting, and even though it was Harryhausen, special effects, just weren't enough for me today. So I sometimes close my eyes and just can't listen too long. It's like, okay, this is what's going to happen now, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm still not sure. I know what they were planning on doing with the boats, but it seemed at the very end that, okay, they just got the bag in the ship and it's been inflated, and you know, Captain Nemo is probably dead, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, did they ever patch it? I don't know. That was maybe something they were glossing over. I don't. There's a few things that just make sense to me. That I'm really glad Bill did his overview of the coal gas thing. Yeah, anyway, beside the point. I don't really have anything else right now, so head back to net controls. KG5BCW.
Alrighty then. Thank you very much, Jake. And now I think it's time to ask if there's anybody else out there. I see KG5PMN on Echolink, but just because he's logged in doesn't mean he's actually here. So I'll just say, anybody else wanting to check in at this point to the Afterglow Movie Net, where we're allegedly talking about Mysterious Island 1961. This is WT9B. Please come now.
Kilo India 5 to India Sierra India.
Alpha Charlie 9, Kilo Victor, Romy and Grapevine. Did not see the movie.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. Yes, I saw David in Dallas.
K5A&E comment? Good. Next round. KI5ISI for the time being, also known as Eric. We didn't say whether he saw the movie or not. And it's also very fuzzy tonight. Kind of like, low power or something. Did you see the movie, Eric?
I am on my HT. I'm mostly listening tonight. I did not watch the movie.
Okay, I'll put you down as a no, along with Romy. Do you have any comments, though, Romy, from WT9B?
I don't. I just want to bat 1,000 for the Dark Knight of Nats. That's all. That's it. AC9KB.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Well, I'll put you down on as a no, but I might give you. I'll probably give you a chance to say something the next time around. W5EBB, David, what you got for us on WT90?
Well, you did say we could talk about anything we wanted to. I think I heard that about 30 minutes ago. So along those lines, I first tried watching a different movie by accident. It was Mysterious Island, and it was about an hour and 30 minutes long. But in the intro, I saw the opening titles, and they looked old, like 1961-ish, but then they sort of faded and kind of defocused, and then they came in focus and then defocused. It was kind of that effect. And when I paused it, I looked at the defocused effect, and it was very grainy, very pixelated. It's like, that looks like CGI. But what really gave it away that I was watching a more contemporary version of this movie was the music. And what I was hearing was circle of fifths, chords, arpeggiated triads. You know, the sort of generic music you hear in almost all movies made in the last 10 years by these point-and-click, drag-and-drop composers. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, that kind of thing, just over and over and over. And sure enough, as soon as the actors came on, they were new actors, new-ish. And so then I had to go to the link provided, and I watched the correct movie. Now, Herbert Lom, it took a long time for us to finally see him. And it wasn't exactly a Bo Derek moment when he emerged out of the ocean. But I half expected Inspector Clouseau to come up to him and say, the case is solved. That's all I got. W5EBB.
All righty. I was thinking something completely different when I first started watching the movie and was watching the credits. It's like, oh, yay, blurry vision. And then it actually started, and it's like, wait, this isn't blurry vision. What's going on here? And another thought that I had was, that's not a UFO, it's a weather balloon. And while watching the daring UFO weather balloon escape, I was wondering what those shots were ricocheting off of when the soldiers were shooting at them up in the morning. It's like ricochet sounds. Off what? Anyway, and my final thought was, while being dragged across the sand by a balloon, let go. All right, let's see. Jake, do you have any comments about the comments so far from WT90?
I'll just comment that I have no comment. W5TXX, back to you.
Yeah, I saw that one coming. Okay, let's see. Tom said he was done and possibly not even here. Other Tom. Not the Tom. Yeah, anyway. N5HYP Tom. Said he was done. So that brings us back around to K5ANE, Kane, who hasn't quite finished the movie. He's in good company. What do you have for us about characterization or other things? Or whatever. Apparently we're talking about whatever tonight from WT9B.
This is K5ANE. I gotta say, like, overall, it's frustrating me that there's so many people that are haters on this movie, of course. This is an excellent movie, especially for the 1960s. I mean, come on now. For what it's worth, yeah, they were using some kind of coal gas kind of thing, but they're pretty good at isolating hydrogen, and at least understanding the idea of there's some gases that are lighter than the common air. Balloon intelligence was an incredibly valuable thing for many battles in the Civil War. I like to just go ahead and throw a pitch out here for Sons of Union Veterans, an organization that I'm a member of, and it's interesting as far as participating and understanding the history of the Civil War. And yeah, it's really cool. Like, as far as the role of balloons and things like that, and the forward thinking of Jules Verne into the idea of this, budding reconnaissance kind of task in the sky, and integrating this into the story of, their, weird submarine that can run forever underwater kind of technology thing. And, I mean, incredible universe that they set up in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Beautiful, novel universe thing that they've got going on. Jules Verne. One second. So it's a hydrogen balloon that they're using. So that's a part of the reason why they don't have any kind of flame or any kind of thing to keep it hot or things like that. Is it's a rubberized balloon storing hydrogen gas. They've extracted it from the lightest of coal gas burning-ish kind of thing going on. Because, of course, most of coal gas is heavier than air. That's why they can normally store it in these giant smokestacks to give, usually, hopefully, a positive pressure on their coal gas service systems. Dangerous times in, the early 19th and 20th centuries, definitely. But yeah, characterization. Once again, this is a big budget flick of the time period, and excellent acting work done, and it's a Jules Verne novel. Pretty good character design and things like that. I really liked the struggles. To a certain extent, I both like and dislike the captain, who seemed really flat at times, and yet also you could really kind of empathize with his struggles. He had this hard dynamic of people that are just really wanting to get home, and yet at times there were these shortcuts, there are these pirates, and maybe we can just flag down these pirates, and maybe they'll give us a good ride home. And it's no, you don't know they're not pirates yet, so let's try and stage things right? And so really kind of did a decent job showcasing the role of a leader, if you read between the lines of what's going on in the movie, and decent character design. Overall, I thought it was pretty decent. Definitely the best movie characterization, but pretty dang good for 1960s. This is K5A&E, back to net control.
Thank you. And that brings us back to Tom, the other Tom, the E5ICX Tom, our glorious leader with the video lights behind him, Tom, from WT9D. What do you think about characterization of the movie?
Oh, that's a good question. And yes, there are video lights behind me because I work from home. They won't let me go to work from work. So I work from home, and I have video lights. I have stuff all over the house. There are cables and things everywhere. And I got audio, I got video, I got scripts, I got, at any rate. Gary Merrill died of cancer. Betty Davis? Yeah, that guy, the cranky guy in the movie. The one that did something with the crab and made, big, huge seafood thing out of him. He was born in 1915, did you know that? And he was cranky. He was really cranky. Let's see, what else can I say about characterization? Well, everybody was, stereotype, and we had, what was it, who was the, the Confederate guy. He wasn't in on the thing. He had that fake accent. He was really boring. Characters themselves, I'm sorry, I gotta tell you, Keen, I wasn't as impressed with you as you were. However, I have to say the color in the movie was pretty good, but that's a technical thing. Let's see. The gal being the gal thing. She didn't cook the crab though. If in a movie in 1961, she was very progressive. She didn't cook anything, which what you're supposed to do back in 1961 and back in the 50s to make coffee, which is an incredibly important thing, but I didn't see her make any coffee, so her character kind of fell off the cliff. Maybe literally too. Not sure. Let's see. I loved Captain Nemo, and I didn't know that Herbert Lom was that Herbert Lom, which Bill mentioned until I looked him up. Inspector Clouseau's superior. He was great in that. And in this movie, he had perfect hair because I think it was a wig. And the shell was quite nice. You know, when you can sport a shell like that while doing undersea stuff, then you're special. So I thought that was pretty good. Everybody else was forgettable. Was it Sergeant Pencroft? Maybe that's who it was. I'm not sure. I get confused. They're all kind of cookie cutter characters, I guess. Overall, it was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I only fell asleep once through the whole thing. So I thought overall the characterization was somewhat engaging. Joan Greenwood played Joan Greenwood. That's what she always does. Oh, she died at 65. Wow. In London, England. That's probably what did it to her. London. In February 28th, 1987. So she did a lot of stuff, period pieces and stuff like that. So I guess that kind of worked out for her. All right, I was acting long enough. I found the characterization serviceable, and the characters okay, and the acting okay, and Herbert Lom had perfect hair. Back to you, KE5I6.
Well, thank you. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, what do you think about characterization? Are you going to talk about crabs again? Oh, wait, that was in chat. WB50ZL, WT90.
WB50ZL. Well, I thought the crab that played the crab did an excellent job. I know some parts are hard to come by, but he really nailed it. The was not so impressed. He was kind of a cartoon type of bird and not as realistic as the crab was. My voice is going. I apologize. I may not last. Want to circle back to gas balloons. I ran across a picture of these gas-making machines, and they're like as big as a van. They had two of them there pumping hydrogen into these balloons. That was pretty interesting. I did like Nemo. I thought he was perfect for the part, and most of the other characters were just fine. You know, it was a formula. What can you say? You know, pretty young girl and falls in love with the guy, and she wears skimpy clothes, and you know, she screams when she's in danger, and it's just very formulaic. And I'm going to quit now. WB50ZL.
Well, alrighty. Do you want to yield your remaining time to N5BB?
No, I'll carry it over to next week. WB50ZL.
Alright, Jay, KG5BZW, what do you think about characterization?
This is KG5BZW. Characterization. honestly, I'm not sure I can complain or anything. As far as character growth, not really much happens that I couldn't tell. I know, like I kind of admitted earlier, I was a little bit out of it watching the film, and it didn't really the characters that boring. It just seemed a little bit now I'm going back to the plot. Get back because I had to. Excuse me. Just I think happened and then magical big animal appears, and then things happen and another magical big animal appears. What's the follow scene? A magical big squid, or squid with conch shells. Or not conch shells, but with some sort of shell. From a general perspective, it was hard to say. I kind of like mix of characters, but it just didn't go anywhere. Except for, the mystery characters, the mystery, that was in fact, the only real character, which is not really a character, but, the whole island Krakatoing itself was kind of, of course, it didn't really Krakatoa, it just and die. Krakatoa would be more of an owl, and that's kind of understandable. Anyway, I don't know. I kind of like the characters. I just felt like it just needed a little something. I'm not sure what to say. I guess from the first bit where they escape the jail Skynet, interesting. Again, it's more of a plot thing, and where they learn each other about each other. And okay, it's the leader. That's kind of cool, but I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. KG5ECW.
Alrighty. Let's see. Eric, do you want to say anything? KI5ISI for the time being from WT9V.
No, I'll let people that watch the movie talk about characterization. I forget that my HT does not transmit to this frequency very well. So anyway, I'm still listening in. KI5ISI, back to net control.
I try so hard to make you feel like part of things. Fine, be that way. Any comments, Romy? You're on the list next. I mean, you said you didn't watch the movie, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to call on you.
I got a comment for ISI. For that HT that's not getting into the repeater so well, it's full quieting, and your audio is superb, so gangbusters, ISI gangbusters. And Michael, thank you for running the net. I just looked you up about 5 minutes ago, okay? If I was a betting man, I was probably about 23, 25 years old. Ham radio, boy, was I way off. And no offense, but you're clearly not 25 years old, so it's the magic of ham radio there. But hey, man, yeah, I don't have, like I said, I didn't see the movie, and the wife took me out to the YL KD9 EP Beach. She took me out for dinner because I'm 41 today. This is going to be a day that goes down in infamy because can't talk about that on the radio, but it makes me disgusted. So, Michael, I'm going to turn it back to you because I'm rambling on. But you did call me, though, so it's your own fault. So, WT9V in the group. Hey, no! Yeah, that's what I want to know. Where did you get your 9 call? Where'd your 9 call come from? AC9KV.
It came from the FCC.
Okay. Vanity or issued? AC9KV.
What do you mean? Or vanity? I'm pretty sure that everybody, unless you live in the Atlantic or Alaska, that originally got a 4-character call is dead by now. I could be wrong, but they're kind of in short supply and have been rinsed and repeated many times. Do you really want to hear the story now? Because people might be wanting to talk.
There's that annoying WFC guy. No, Michael, I'm not going to impede on your net. We can save it for a later date. But yeah, that's a valid point. The 2x1. They're pretty much the original issues have been long gone. So I'm going to let you get back to that there, bud. Thanks for running it. AC9KV. Good times.
I mean, you can't have it both ways. I'm young or I'm, ancient, one of the two, but honestly, I'm somewhere in the middle. Go figure. Let's see, W5EBB, what you got? Anything about characterization? WT9V, the mysterious 9-person.
Well, I'm busy looking up QRZ, what your born date is, to see what Romy's talking about. WT9V. Well, yeah, we all have vanity signs. And I recently found out that my call is very close to the one that Art Bell used to have when he was alive. He was W6OBB, and I'm W5EBB, just off by just 2 characters. Back to characters. Well, I talked a little bit about Herbert Lom, and it actually, the scene in this movie where he's at that organ on the Nautilus, that character was reprised a little bit in one of the Pink Panther sequels where he's the big villain and he's seeking world domination, and he's got this ray gun, and he has a large organ in his house that he's playing, and it kind of was reminiscent of that scene. About the characters, why was the captain such a submarine hater? I mean, every chance he got, he was saying something disparaging about, the Nautilus and the submarine, that's just, taking warfare to a low level, that you can't kill people like that by sneaking up on them. That's just not right. There's a right way to kill people and a wrong way. And being sneaky like that, the reality is the real submarine force ran into that same sort of stigma early on. And eventually, of course, that they have a lot of prestige is now associated with being a submariner and getting your dolphins and being part of the submarine force. But that was interesting because there was a parallel in that kind of disparaging attitude early on with real submarines. That's it, W5EBB.
Alrighty. I'm still trying to figure out how, where Romy figured out that I wasn't a kid. But anyway, maybe he's got a dossier on me or something. Anyway, let's see. Alrighty. Do we have anybody left? Let's see. Kane said he was done. Tom said he was done. Jake, I could call on Jake, but he keeps telling me he doesn't have anything to say about the movie he didn't watch. Which brings us back around to K5ICX. Tom. Other Tom. Video Tom. What do you have about this movie? What's the movie again? Mysterious Island and special effects from WT9V.
All right, I'm going to tell you something about the special effects. This is Ray Harryhausen. This guy did everything on his own. Everything he did by himself. He locked himself in a closet somewhere and he did all the special effects. And his name appears on the credits as special effects guy. He was the special effects guy. Now I got to tell you something. Let me tell you a story. I went up to Oklahoma City, actually twice. The first time I went to Oklahoma City to see the Ray Harryhausen event. Exhibit that they had at the museum there, which was whatever they call it now. It used to be Cosmos something, and now it's nothing. It's just Oklahoma Science something is the name of the museum. And they had the Ray Harryhausen thing there, which I thought was pretty cool. And it had all the different things that he did. So they found all this stuff in a double-wide trailer somewhere and his dead body underneath, run over or something. Let me reset. In the process of all of this, he laboriously did stop-action photography of stuff over and over again. And of course, you could tell that it was stop action because of the jittery thing and the fact that everything was in perfect focus. There was no blur, nothing, except for that stupid crab thing that was blurry because I think it was a real crab that he killed, and then put in his animatronic stuff, and then it became the crab that kind of had the stop action thing going on. But the one thing I will say is that there are no actors. No, there were plenty of small actors. There were big crabs, and other stuff. The bee was really cool, and the bee tried to totally encapsulate inside of one of the little cell things the romantic leads, and they deserved that because they were not really interesting. Well, I'm sorry, they weren't. So what does this all mean in the scheme of things? Well, Ray Harryhausen was really good at all this stuff. And don't forget, and we can talk about this on the open round, the music by Bernard Herrmann. Herman or Herrmann, you decide. The double R always messes it up. But those two things together always worked every time. And we had a big B, and what was the other thing again? Oh yeah, and a little crab. Back to you, KE5I6.
Alrighty, let's see, I can't remember. Oh yeah. Tom, let's see. Brenda, that's it. Brenda's next. My pointer and where we actually are not in the same spot, so. Brenda, do you still have any voice left? And if you do, now's your time to talk. And if you don't, just chunk the repeater a couple of times. WT9V.
This is WB50ZO. Oh, it sounds like I don't really have much left. And I'm kind of out of things to say anyway. Special effects were good. I'm a big Harryhausen fan. I saw him once at a convention. He's real interesting. Okay, WB50ZO, back to net.
Alrighty, well, you go to bed and put your voice to bed and give it some, have a hot toddy or something, you know, those are actually scientifically proven to make you better. They've done tests. You know, a little bit of warm whiskey, honey, lemon juice, good for what ails you. Or after enough of them, you won't care anymore. Yeah. Gas ISI. Yes, Eric, I'm going to call on you again from WT9V.
Well, all right. I think we're at the end of the movie portion. I didn't see it. I have been really busy this week. The last 2 weeks I've been really hitting it hard. I'm doing some helping launch a business and stuff. So unfortunately I haven't been able to participate fully, even though I love to. So that's kind of what's been going on here. And I still didn't even see last week's movie, which I actually want to see. We were driving around today with my business partner, and They Might Be Giants came on with one of their tunes on the Spotify list, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta catch that movie. I'm gonna reset real quick. I just wanted to check in and hear my friendly voices here on this net, and that's kind of all I got. I do want to tell everybody to stay safe out there. It's kind of wild times, so hope everybody's doing well and taking care of themselves. Back to net control.
Net control. Don't you forget it. That's me. Tonight. Next week it'll be somebody else. But now it's me. Let's see. Do I call on Romy again? Last time was weird. We like weird. Romy, you still there? What you got? WT9V.
Well, thank you for coming back to me, because I want to elaborate on your question as to why I thought you were a 20-something, young 20-something. One, you have a very young voice. Okay. And then on one occasion, you checked into the company announcements net, and you said, WT9V, I just woke up. Okay. And then I think maybe you said, good morning. Is that what you call this? Let me reset. So that, in combination with what I perceive as a young voice, I took, okay, this is a young kid. So after I checked into the net initially, I'm not that familiar with you, Michael. So I was like, I got lazy. I didn't actually go to QRZ or turn on my computer. I picked up my smartphone and I just put your call sign into Google. And the fourth Google image is it came up right underneath the Google returns, is a headshot of you from a Metro Crest Christmas party some years back where you supposedly won a power supply. But what's funny about that is that's the fourth image. The third image is track lighting, which has the same model number as your call sign. WT9V. It's a 4-bulb track lighting thing. So Google image number 1 and number 2 come directly from your QRZ page. I confirmed that between this round and the last round. But number 3 is a track lighting unit. So if you ever need track lighting, Michael, make sure you get the WT9V unit. Back to net, AC9KB.
That is great. I like that. That's really nice. And thank you for the advice. Well, actually, is it good track lighting or is it crap?
I didn't look at any of the reviews or anything, but there actually are multiple units, so you do have options. So once I clicked on that, there's different variations that say that carry the WT9V badge, which is strange or cool, however way you want to look at it. AC9KB?
I think I'm irritated right now about the fact that I'm not getting any royalties from these track lighting people that have absconded with my name. How rude. I'm almost speechless. Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah, David. KE5 or K. Yeah. There's no K. There's no W5EBB. It's right there on the screen. What am I, an idiot? Don't answer that. From WT9V.
Well, there's also a WT9V large one-light pendant light. So you are well established in the lighting community, it would appear. And I'm reluctant to put in my call sign and see what pops up. Let's see, anything. Okay, the music, yes, absolutely. The music is really good in this movie. It's the way music should be. This is well done. The orchestration was great. It went with the scenes very well. It really enhanced the viewing experience. Great soundtrack. And overall, okay, the movie was good. It was very enjoyable. You know, any other criticisms aside, overall, this was a very enjoyable movie. It probably had the same sort of zeal and appeal as maybe a Star Wars did to people who saw it as kids in the 60s. I liked it. W5EBB.
I'm not sure, but I think this was a little before Star Wars. Don't quote me on that, because I might be wrong. Let's see. I'm not quite midnight. I've managed to stretch this out for a while. Let's see if there's anybody else out there that wants to check in at the last minute and get their words in. If so, please come now with your call sign, name, and whether you saw the movie from WT9V.
N5BB, I feel I've been blacklisted. I feel like the barge waiting for the Falcon 9, and it can't be found. It just sits there waiting. It's so lonely.
November 5, India, Mike Sierra, JJ and Carrollton, and no, I did not see the movie.
Anybody else? Because otherwise I might have to call on Bill again.
Oh, what the heck? KE5A6.
You're already on the list.
Evil doppelganger.
Oh, the other KE5ICX. Okay, I'll put you on the list again. I figured there was a painting in your back room that was getting older and older all the time. But, yeah, what do I know? I've never seen your back room. Let's see. N5IMS, JJ, what kind of comments do you have about comments?
Well, actually, not too much, but I did want to make a comment on a comment. It's kind of about you. I suspect that you're so much into the lighting because you're so bright. Okay, I'll expect to check later. But my comment that's movie related anyway is that Gary Merrill used to live just up the beach from us here. My dad was transferred into Maine before they closed his office and laid everybody off. So, we had basically a year in Maine. It was nice. We were 6 blocks from the ocean, so we enjoyed it. And the people who designed the subdivision were at least somewhat smart. They bought the land that covered up the private road that went to the beach, which gave everybody in the subdivision stomping rights on the beach. So, that was nice, so we could get down there. But Gary Merrill lived just a bit west of, the beach area that we had in there. And I made a bet with him for the World Series that year because I had just moved from Illinois and was a large St. Louis Cardinals fan. And, of course, up there, Boston Red Sox were, who everybody supported. so obviously, being he lived there in Maine, he supported the Red Sox, and me just having come from Illinois supported the Cardinals, as I had for years before anyway. So we made a little bet that, the Cardinals won the series, he would have to, his part of the bet was he would pay for, to take me to the World Series every game in both the cities that the Cardinals played in. And of course, had the Red Sox won, I would have to mow his yard and do a few chores around his house and stuff. Well, fortunately, the St. Louis Cardinals won. I think it was 5 games to 1, I guess. So it was nearly a sweep, and so everybody was good. And I got a promise for tickets to see them the next time they played in the series. Well, unfortunately, we moved away, and the next year, and he, Gary Merrill died in, I think it was 1980. So, I'm sure I'll never get to collect on that bet, but it's fun to talk about. So, I figured I might as well. I'm not sure if I let up on the mic or if it timed out, but it is the witching hour, so I guess timeout is possible.
Elvis,
I figured I'd let it go and let it back to net. It's N5 IMS.
Alrighty. Well, let's see. Yeah, okay. We'll since nobody besides JJ checked in on that last one, we'll just, instead of having more whatever else round, everybody except Bill that still has something to say, because I know Bill has something to say, so you don't need to say anything, because I'll call on you. But everybody else that has any other comments, please come now.
KE5ICX.
Are you one of the other 2 KE5ICXs, or are you a third one?
Well, it's a triple X, which makes it perfectly refined.
And or not suitable for children. One of the 2. Not sure which. Okay, Tom, what you got?
As mentioned earlier, out of order, like you would expect, but I was just going to say the Bernard Herrmann music was really quite good. And the reason this movie got picked is because the music was offered up on my music soundtrack program out of Detroit, which I've been listening to for about 30 years now. Yeah, 30 years, maybe 40 years, 45, 40 years. Yeah, 40 years, I think. And as such, I heard it for the first time, and I thought, hey, it is really interesting. And then found out it was a sequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This would be a good choice. And really, it wasn't a bad choice. I thought it was pretty good. Music is always good. Bernard Herrmann is one of the best composers. He died in 1975. I discovered him like 2 weeks after he died. So maybe it's my fault that his demise. But in any case, I thought it was pretty cool. You'll recognize him best. His best score, probably, although he made many, is Day the Earth Stood Still, is what he's best known for, with the theremin and all of that. But he's music for Fahrenheit 451 was another score he did. He also did Oh, geez, I'm Jason and the Argonaut. I could look this stuff up, but I'm pulling this from memory. So his style is distinctly emphatic and very well done and well composed. And as was mentioned earlier, I think it was by David, where, you know, neutral, crappy scores exist everywhere. Berenices was always a master. So that's it from me. Back to World Control. This is KE5ICX.
And don't you forget it.
The time is 12:05 a.m.
Now, clock's almost right, but not quite. All right, let's see. Next week, since I know that's what everybody was looking for, we're going to be watching some episode of Space Command from this year, which I'm a little confused about, but Tom said that's what it is. So, yeah, okay. Details to follow on your email and Facebook. And now, Mr. Bill in 5BB. The floor is yours, and we're leaving the building. WT9V.
I could thank you, Michael, but I won't. This is N5BB. I've got to say a little bit more about Herbert Lom. He played in 3 movies. The one we saw, Mysterious Island, although Michael didn't watch it, but the one that most of us saw was in 1961. It was the first one. The next one was about a year later. He was in a movie of The Phantom of the Opera. That movie has been made and remade several times. And then, of course, The Pink Panther Strikes Again. When he made the movie we just saw, most of us saw, Mysterious Island, Herbert Lom was only 4 years old. So obviously either he bleached his hair or he had a wig, or both. He passed away at age 95 about 8 years ago. Herbert Lom wrote 2 historical novels. I don't think either one's very good, but one of them has a very interesting name, Dr. Guillotine, The Eccentric Exploits of an Early Scientist, because the French guillotine was named for Dr. Guillotine. And Herbert Lom wrote a novel based on him. And I've got a picture of the front of the novel, and it shows this nude classical sculpture, and the head has been removed, and the figure is holding the head. It's very gruesome looking. So the movie rights to that movie, to Dr. Guillotine, were purchased, but the movie has never been made. Oh boy, that sounds interesting. One more thing about the gas balloons. The Union Army built 2 aircraft carriers. These were the first aircraft carriers for the balloons. They were converted coal barges. The first one was, this name is crazy, the USS George Washington Parke Curtis. That's somebody's name. George Washington Parke Curtis is somebody's name. And they named this aircraft carrier after him. There is a photograph of it, or a drawing. It's kind of hard to say which one it is, on Wikipedia. So the first aircraft carrier had one of these gas balloons during the Civil War.
W5FC.
And one more comment. Somebody said that your call was a recycled call and that the original person that got it, Michael. Not sure about that. Up until 1977, I believe was the year, all U.S. calls started with W or K, and then had either no letter or A, B, C, or D after them, a number, and 2 or 3 characters after. Calls that were 2-by-1 calls were only issued after that point. So it's not some old, I mean, you may think the late 70s is ancient, but for me it's not. Good night, Prince BB.
I think Michael got arrested. All right. I say, see you next week. Same bad time, same bad station. Bye. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear. Bye.
Maybe it was a case of arrested development. I'm with Kelly. I'm going to get up tomorrow morning and look for the docking on TV of the SpaceX Dragon capsule in 5BB. Good night, Tom.
Alright, see you, Bill. Yeah, I'm going to watch that too. I think she put time up, I'm looking back, 9:29 a.m. tomorrow, so check it out then. Good things happen, or there will be lawyers involved. We'll see. Alright, 7-3. See you later. KE5ICX clear.
Hey, I just wanted to give a quick shout to you guys. If you have a chance on Wednesday night on the K5RWK repeater, I will be premiering our first iteration of the Beginners and Mentors Net at 8:30 p.m. Central, so it'd be awesome if any of you guys have a chance to join us. All right, have a nice night. W5TXX.
Wednesday at 8:30, duly noted. Ixnay on the Wednesday at 8:30 for my Simplex net. I'm just playing. Me and Calvin were talking about a Simplex net, but Wednesday at 8:30, noted. 89 KB. K5 RWK. 89 KB for the Fed, so 89 KB.
And as Tom said, and Kelly did, 9:27 a.m. Central Daylight Time tomorrow morning on NASA TV, the docking of the, hopefully, of the SpaceX Dragon capsule with the International Space Station for the first time. N5BB clear.